Dear Sir, I was so surprised to receive your letter asking about my son. How did you know I was here? I moved here years ago, right after it started to happen. No one knows who I am here, but I'm afraid all the same. Who I'm afraid of is him. When I look at the paper, I shake my head and wonder. I read what they write about him, and I ask myself, is that man really my son? Is he really doing these things? He was a good boy, except for his outbursts, and that he could not tell the truth. I can't give you any reasons. It started one summer over the 4th of July. He would have been about 15. Our cat Trudy disappeared and was gone all night and the next day. Mrs. Cooper, who lived behind us, came the next evening to tell me Trudy crawled into her backyard that afternoon to die. Trudy was cut up, she said, but she recognized Trudy. Mr. Cooper buried the remains. Cut up, I said. What do you mean, cut up? Mr. Cooper saw 2 boys in the field putting firecrackers in Trudy's ears and in her you-know-what. He tried to stop them, but they ran. Who? Who would do such a thing? Did he see who it was? He didn't know the other boy, but one of them ran this way. Mr. Cooper thought it was your son. I shook my head. No, that's just not so. He wouldn't do a thing like that. He loved Trudy. Trudy had been in the family for years. No, it wasn't my son. That evening I told him about Trudy, and he acted surprised and shocked and said we should offer a reward. He typed something up and promised to post it at school. But just as he was going to his room that night, he said, "Don't take it too hard, Mom. She was old in cat years. She was 65 or 70. She lived a long time." He went to work afternoons and Saturdays as a stock boy at Hartley's. A friend of mine who worked there, Betty Wilkes, told me about the job and said she'd put in a word for him. I mentioned it to him and he said, "Good. Jobs for young people are hard to find." The night he was to draw his first check, I cooked his favorite supper and had everything on the table when he walked in. "Here's the man of the house," I said, hugging him. "I'm so proud. How much did you draw, honey?" $80, he said. I was flabbergasted. "That's wonderful, honey. I just cannot believe it." "I'm starved," he said. "Let's eat." I was happy, but I couldn't understand it. It was more than I was making. When I did the laundry, I found the stub from Hartley's in his pocket. It was for $28. He said 80. Why couldn't he just tell me the truth? I couldn't understand. I would ask him, "Where did you go last night, honey?" "To the show," he would answer. Then I would find out he went to the school dance or spent the evening riding around with somebody in a car. I would think, what difference would it make? Why can't he just be truthful? There is no reason to lie to his mother. I remember once he was supposed to have gone on a field trip, so I asked him, "What did you see on the field trip, honey?" And he shrugged and said, "Land formations, volcanic rock, ash. They showed us where there used to be a big lake 1,000,000 years ago. Now it's just a desert." He looked me in the eyes and went on talking. Then I got a note from the school the next day saying they wanted permission for a field trip. Could he have permission to go? Near the end of his senior year, he bought a car and was always gone. I was concerned about his grades, but he only laughed. You know, he was an excellent student. You know that about him if you know anything. After that, he bought a shotgun and a hunting knife. I hated to see those things in the house, and I told him so. He laughed. He always had a laugh for you. He said he would keep the gun and the knife in the trunk of his car. He said they would be easier to get to there anyway. One Saturday night he did not come home. I worried myself into a terrible state. About 10 o'clock the next morning he came in and asked me to cook him breakfast. He said he had worked up an appetite out hunting. He said he was sorry for being gone all night. He said they had driven a long way to get to this place. He sounded strange. He was nervous. Where did you go? Up to the Weenus. We got a few shots. Who did you go with, honey? Fred. Fred? He stared, and I didn't say anything else. On the Sunday right after, I tiptoed into his room for his car keys. He had promised to pick up some breakfast items on his way home from work the night before, and I thought he might have left the things in the car. I saw his new shoes sitting half under his bed and covered with mud and sand. He opened his eyes. Honey, what happened to your shoes? Look at your shoes. I ran out of gas. I had to walk for gas. He sat up. What do you care? I am your mother. While he was in the shower, I took the keys and went out to his car. I opened the trunk. I didn't find the groceries. I saw the shotgun lying on a quilt, and the knife, too. And I saw a shirt of his rolled in a ball, and I shook it out, and it was full of blood. It was wet. I dropped it. I closed the trunk and started back for the house, and I saw him watching from the window, and he opened the door. I forgot to tell you, he said. I had a bad bloody nose. I don't know if that shirt can be washed. Throw it away. He smiled. A few days later, I asked how he was getting along at work. Fine, he said. He had gotten a raise. But I met Betty Wilkes on the street, and they said they were all sorry at Hartley's that he had quit. He was so well liked, she said, Betty Wilkes. 2 nights after that, I was in bed but couldn't sleep. I stared at the ceiling. I heard his car pull up out front, and I listened as he put his key in the lock. I heard him come in through the kitchen and down the hall to his room, and he shut the door after him. I got up. I could see the light under his door. I knocked and pushed on the door and said, Would you like a hot cup of tea, honey? I can't sleep. He was bent over by the dresser and slammed a drawer and turned on me. Get out, he screamed. Get out of here. I'm sick of you spying, he screamed. I went to my room and cried myself to sleep. He broke my heart that night. The next morning he was up and out before I could see him, but that was all right with me. From then on, I was going to treat him like a lodger unless he mended his ways. I was at my limit. He would have to apologize if he wanted us to be more than just strangers living together under the same roof. When I came in that evening, he had supper ready. How are you? He said. He took my coat. How was your day? I said, I didn't sleep last night, honey. I promised myself I wouldn't bring it up, and I'm not trying to make you feel guilty, but I'm not used to being talked to like that by my son. I want to show you something, he said, and he showed me this essay he was writing for his civics class. I believe it was on relations between Congress and the Supreme Court. It was a paper that won a prize for him at graduation. I tried to read it, and then I decided this was the time. Honey, I'd like to have a talk with you. It's hard to raise a child with things the way they are these days, and it's especially hard having no father in the house, no man to turn to when we need him. You are nearly grown now, but I'm still responsible, and I feel I am entitled to some respect and consideration, and have tried to be fair and honest with you. I want the truth. That's all I've ever asked from you. The truth. Honey, I took a breath. Suppose you had a child who, when you asked him something, anything, where he's been or where he's going, what he's doing with his time, anything, he never once told you the truth, who, if you asked him is it raining outside, would answer, no, it's nice and sunny, and I guess laugh to himself and think you were too old or too stupid to see his clothes are wet. Why should he lie, you ask yourself? What does he gain? I don't understand. I keep asking myself why, but I don't have the answer. Why, honey? He didn't say anything. He kept staring. Then he moved over alongside me and said, I'll show you. Kneel is what I say. Kneel down is what I say, he said. That's the first reason why. I ran to my room and locked the door. He left that night. He took his things, what he wanted, and he left. Believe it or not, I never saw him again. I saw him at his graduation, but that was with a lot of people around. I sat in the audience and watched him get a diploma and a prize for his essay. Then I heard him give the speech, and then I clapped right along with the rest. I went home after that. I have never seen him again. Oh, sure, I've seen him on the TV, and I've seen his pictures in the paper. I found out he joined the Marines, and then I heard from someone he was out of the Marines and going to college back east, and then he married that girl and got himself in politics. I began to see his name in the paper. I found out his address and wrote to him. I wrote a letter every few months. There never was an answer. He ran for governor and was elected and was famous now. That's when I began to worry. I built up all these fears. I became afraid. I stopped writing to him, of course, and then I hoped he would think I was dead. I moved here. I had them give me an unlisted number, and then I had to change my name. If you are a powerful man and want to find somebody, you can find them. It wouldn't be that hard. I should be so proud, but I am afraid. Last week I saw a car on the street with a man inside I know was watching me. I came straight back and locked the door. A few days ago the phone rang and rang. I was lying down. I picked up the receiver, but there was nothing there. I am old. I am his mother. I should be the proudest mother in all the land, but I am only afraid. Thank you for writing. I wanted someone to know. I am very ashamed. I also wanted to ask how you got my name and knew where to write. I have been praying no one knew, but you did. Why did you? Please tell me why. Yours truly,